Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. And it's Tuesday, it's March 14th. This will be our chart lesson today. And finally, we had some movement. We had a really nice trend down, and then we reversed, and we really went sideways the rest of the day, but this does have an upward bias to it. We actually had one more pretty good sell off here. You see, we had a close outside right here, but it's not a very convincing close. So, um, I'm guessing that's why we tried to test these lows again, but it just couldn't do it and it continued higher. So, but we do have a close outside the new low. So on a trend like this, and notice there are two legs down, you measure your first leg. And so when we headed lower, that would be my target. And you can see we really, we maybe went a tick or two lower than that. But as far as closing, we closed right on a perfect measured move. And again, it looks like it maybe went a tick or two lower there. So that's a pretty good target. Generally, what I'll do is I'll shoot for um, a tick or two prior to the actual target, just to make sure I give myself room to get out. Here, it wouldn't have mattered. Um, the first time it bounced, it might have scared you, and then the next time down, it would have, even one tick in front of the low. That's a perfect measured move right there. Maybe it went a tick lower than that actually. That the close looks like a perfect measured move there. So. Uh, But anyway, let's back out, talk about the trades, and I'm going to try to wrap this up pretty quickly today. I have somewhere I need to be tonight, so I should have done this earlier, but I've been tied up today. But anyway, I'm going to get through the trades and we'll get through the day. But notice we were working down. We've really got two legs down, and then we get a two-leg correction, and then you look for that next leg down that's over that overall move down there. So, but we had a little double top here, and then we came back and tested it. So this is a double test of this high. Plus, it's a turn down right off the trend line. It also is a second entry short. So there's a lot of reasons. Nice bearish bar. That's a pretty good setup there. Plenty of room to get out before that double bottom. And then it actually comes back and gives you a little lower high. Generally, I would like that bar to be more negative. But you should have already been in this one, and I liked adding on to this one, to be honest with you. When it made that lower high, even though it didn't close on its low, um, I like going short there and adding on there, as it is right off that key entry point. And this turns out to be a really nice move. And if you added on, you had a double load there. And then notice we pull back here, and then we get another double test and another real bearish bar right off the trend line again. This is basically a repeat of what we just had. There's not as much room to get out on this one, so you might have let it break lower and dropped a limit order a little further back to get a better entry, but it didn't matter here. You got your measured move down here. And again, it's just a repeat pattern. It comes back one more time right off the trend line. Again, not a perfect signal bar. This one is closer to being green, but since that's a repeat pattern, uh, and if you tried to let this one back up more than a tick or so, you probably would have got left behind. And that's another great move right into that measured move. And so you probably could argue for that one to be green, and I wouldn't argue back with you, but because it's a repeat pattern and it's doing almost the exact same thing, and notice how it's actually making lower highs here, and again, this is a little bit of congestion here, and it's a little failed break out of that as well. So there's a lot of reasons to look for this thing to go short, and so I like that. And of course, you get a pullback again to the trend line here. Um, this is really your signal bar. This first couple here, they're too bullish. Then you get another one with a matching high. So you might have considered entering here, but with that close outside, right into those lows, I just don't think I would. It would have worked, but I don't think you want to risk it. We had a setup somewhere else similar to that just the other day, and it failed, and we had a lot of people that got tricked, and you don't want to get tricked here going low, going short that close to the low of the day, especially after a measured move. That's really the kicker piece there. And so now you're just looking for a reversal. This is close to a reversal pattern. We really don't get a tick lower anywhere in here, so it's really just a first entry move. But there are two legs up, so you might consider this one. It's a nice reversal bar, so you might consider going long there. Really, I thought this was the trend line, and it looked like this was going to be a break. Um, and you can't rule out that we may not test the lows again. So this one was a little bit concerning, but notice what happens. We go up, we make a first entry short, we make a second entry short. The only reason I didn't like this one being blue, it is a second entry long too, counting off the highs, and that is a fairly bullish bar, but it's right in to that little double top right there. So you could probably argue for it to be green. I think you're better off to wait. And notice what happens. It does. It turns back down. It looks like it's going to be a failed second entry long, but you were looking for longs here. We're not looking for shorts yet. Look at that trend line working up through there, two-tiered channel. So when you get that failed second entry short and that bullish bar, I like going long there. And you got just enough to get out. It makes a new high, pulls back, it double tests that high and gives you a big bearish bar. It's not real far from the EMA, but it's far enough. I like entering there. You don't know that it's going to do this, but you figure you'll get a scalp out of this. You do have enough for a reversal pattern there as well. So I like that setup, and this turns out to be a really nice move down. You get much more to scalp out of it. You would have had a nice runner that you could have ridden all the way back down to these lows. And being that far away from the EMA, as soon as you started bouncing here, I probably would have exited. And then notice what happens. You get another failed second entry short that you actually get a confirmation of this trend line right here. But that's a first entry long, counting off that high. Actually, if you count from up here, it would be a second entry, but I wouldn't count that high up there. I would be wanting to start counting from here. And so again, you might argue for this one to be at least green, but I think you're being a little premature trying to look for that long, even though it does confirm that trend line. But when you fail again right here and you get that failed second entry short, again, it's not a perfect reversal pattern. You are going sideways here. You do have a doji in there. So again, you got to be a little bit concerned, but with that trend line being there and that being a key entry point, I'd let it break higher and maybe drop me a limit order in. And I wouldn't even be against using a stop there. And this turns out to be a nice trade. And then you're coming back. You actually get a second entry long here, but it's not a very good signal bar. And then you get another attempt to go short, and it kind of bounces off that trend line. And just this bar alone, I'd say no way. But you really can combine those two, and that's almost closing on its very high. So I like that one just to ride it back up to these highs, because you can see we're going sideways here. And actually, I probably would have, I had this down here before, right? Actually right here. But when we closed up here, you want to move it up. Same thing here. You probably want to move that one up. And so that leaves you a little bit of room to get out. And so I like taking it then on that. That's a double test of these lows here. Basically, it's a double test of this breakout. Notice this is congestion, so that's a breakout. And then we come back, and you might have considered entering here too, but it's not a perfect signal bar. It's a first entry. There's not really a trap. You're just getting a chance to enter at the lows of what looks like a little trading range here, and there's enough room probably to get out. You probably would have moved this up to here by now. And so you got room. So you could argue for that one, but being that late in the day, I'd probably skip that one. But you could argue for it to be green. So, yeah, pretty good trading day. Much better than what we had yesterday. I was really wondering if we were going to have much of a week this week. But today turned out pretty good. I mean, just if you just caught one or two of these trades, you had a pretty good day. And then you had to be a little bit patient, really, from about 9:30 maybe to 10:30, 11 before it picked back up again. So again, you still had to have some downtime where you had to be real patient there. And then there's a few trades in here. A lot of them are green, but a couple of these are real close to being. You could probably argue for them to be blue, but they're just so close. And we've seen a few how lately a few trades that are questionable are right there on the borderline. You've seen how they fail, and so you don't want to take a chance when you've already had a pretty good morning so far. So, um, but yeah, good trading day. Not much else we can say about today other than we had a nice trend down, and then we really just this really is a downtrend with more of a sideways action. Even though we're working up, you can see it's not very steep, and you're just really going in these little tight channels, not channels, ranges, congestion areas, and with a little movement in between them. So it gets a little more sketchy here in the afternoon. The morning was pretty nice though. So, and you had to be patient this morning waiting because there really wasn't a setup till after 8 o'clock, after the 8:30 open. Um, I don't see anything. You sure don't want to be going short in here, and there's no real long setup, other than the fact right here. I can't remember what time that bar was. Yeah, yeah, that was at 7:30. There's a little bit of a trap there, and being that far away from the EMA, you could argue for that one, and you could almost argue for that one to be blue. But generally, you're better to wait on that higher low, and you really don't get one. You get a double bottom here, but you don't get a very good signal bar. So I'm gonna leave that one green anyway. But yeah, there's some reasons to argue for that one. You do get a close outside, a move to a new low, and then it reverses too on that shorter term trend line right there. But I'd be more interested in this trend line. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.